Right, good afternoon everybody. It's 3:15 or thereabouts, and my name's Chris Lawrence and I'm the chair of the Trust, and I'm delighted to welcome colleagues, governors, members of the public and friends here to our annual meeting. It's a great delight to be here in Downham Market. We've had our board meeting here in the town hall. We've sampled the delights of sandwiches from local shops, and it's great to be here because this is part of the communities we serve. We've got a little bit of formal business, but I just wanted to say a few words before we get to the formal business. It's been an extraordinary time for the NHS, for Kings Lynn, for West Norfolk, for Lincolnshire and Cambridgeshire that we serve. It has been the most astonishing journey that we've been on. If you think about the background of RAC, recovery from COVID, the financial pressures, winter pressures, political uncertainty, trustonomics, everything else going on in the country. It's not been easy for anybody. We've also, in the hospital, been on the most extraordinary journey of renewal. All of these things, coupled with RAC, new hospitals, the fact that we had an entire generation of extraordinary people who'd served this trust so well moved on, a time of great uncertainty, but I think also a time that this trust has showed its great resilience and its dedication to serving the communities of West Norfolk, Lincolnshire and Cambridgeshire, and our staff. And I suppose I really want to start off, before we look at this extraordinary year, by just thanking a few people who, most of whom are not in this room, because they've moved on. I mean, I turned up in the middle of the year well aware that I was standing on the shoulders of some Herculean efforts, not only by my predecessor Steve Barnett, but also Graham Ward, who isn't with us either this afternoon, who stood in as interim chair, all of those interims, and an extraordinary group of non-executive directors who basically held the ring during that time of immense change. And the fact that we have come through in relatively good order and achieved some quite remarkable things on the way, as you will see, is in no small part due to their efforts. I think the other thing is that when we think about the NHS, we very often think about our wonderful clinicians, our nurses, our midwives, our allied health professionals, the people we all see when we come into the hospital. But there's also an army of people in our organisations, and particularly in QEH, that enable the show to happen, whether it's cleaners, porters, whether it's maintenance staff, whether it's finance, whether it's all of those back office, whether it's the wonderful catering, and Stuart, wherever you are, thank you once again for feeding us and watering us so well today. This is what they do day in and day out, and without all of their efforts, we wouldn't be able to deliver care. So part of what we're doing today, I think, in celebrating a year, we must also be celebrating those people who are not necessarily on the front line, but who enable the front line to do their jobs. It's a time of relatively good news for the Norfolk health economy. Over £2 billion to be invested in our health economy over the next few years by the NHS. 2 new hospitals, EPR, diagnostic assessment centres, the money for RAC refurbishment to keep our hospitals open. We need to recognise that there is actually a lot of support being given to this health economy, and it's up to us to maximise the benefit and the opportunities that's going to present. And I think, as you will see, the vigour and the resilience and the innovation and the achievements of certainly QEH, I think, play very much into those opportunities, and I'm confident that we are going to be able to continue to thrive and build. So we've got this extraordinary journey that we're going to take you on. I'm really pleased that this year, for the first time, we've got easy read, much more accessible documentation, and we're going to be talking about that specifically, as well as various other aspects of our activity. So I very much hope you enjoy it. Once again, thank you very much for coming. There will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation, so don't hold back and do ask away when it comes to that. I want a lively debate. I want to hear your views. And if there are any of you who are with us who are not members or members of our staff, there are membership forms at the back. Our membership is really important to us. And certainly our wonderful governors, who are an incredible link between us and our members in ensuring that we hear the views of the communities and the patients that we represent. So please sign up if you haven't already. And I suppose lastly, a word of thanks actually for our governors. In a world where the sort of specific statutory attributes of foundation trust seem to be being eroded over time, the one thing that remains, and I think is of great value, is our governors. Once again, during the time of great change, the continuity of our governors was really important for us. Esme Corner, who stood down as lead governor a few months ago and has now been replaced by Antonia, who's going to be talking to you today, worked tirelessly with her colleagues, with the Trust and with its board to champion the cause of patients and help us ensure that we did everything possible to deliver the best experience for everybody. So thank you very much to them. Now, before I invite Alice up, there is one formal piece of business, which is we need to approve the minutes of the annual meeting last year. Now, the board and the governors have all seen these minutes, and I'm going to ask them, if you don't mind, other members, if on your behalf, they can actually declare that those minutes are an accurate record of what happened last year. I certainly wasn't around, so... so can I have that approval? Right, okay, I'm going to take those as approved. Alice, over to you.
Thank you and good afternoon. And I know, Chris, you didn't want to stand in front of your picture, so I'll make sure everyone sees it. And I guess the only other bit just to say is on behalf of myself and Stuart, anyone who's had a piece of cake, he reliably informs me it has no calories for the first piece. Okay, so we're just going to show you now a little clip of our year, which hopefully you will enjoy. Can we have the lights off, please?
Last year, our midwives delivered nearly 2,000 babies, and they deserve to be celebrated for supporting women, to their commitment to their role, and to just being a fabulous team of midwives.
So it's a real pleasure as Secretary of State for Health and Social Care to be able, with my very dear colleague James Wild, as your local MP, to be able to officially declare the centre open.
don't know about you, but I can't help but smile when I look at that, and I also realise how tired I am and why. So delightfully, we've got a slide up here which just gives you a quick review of our year in numbers. And I think what we can see year on year, the NHS and particularly us at King's Lynn see more activity going through. We have more patients attending our emergency department, more outpatients, activity, more surgical activity. It goes on, and this is just a small part of what we do. Really important that within the context of that Chris has described, we continue to work for our communities and for the patients that really need us, and that we manage to develop our services as we go on. You can see here, hopefully at the back you can read the text, but we've had £80 million in money coming in national capital that's been coming into the organisation. We've maintained our relentless focus on providing timely access to urgent and emergency care. We could always do better, we know that, but we continue to work with the teams that we've got, and more importantly to try and make sure that patients get what they need, where they need it. Our new facilities, you'll hear about some of those facilities that we've opened during the course of the year, and I'm not very good with all the maths, but we have spent nearly £30 million on new facilities of the 3 places that you will hear about this afternoon. Really important for patients to know that they've got the first-class facilities that they deserve. And most importantly, our staff. We talk about Team QEH, but Team QEH is not made up of individuals working on their own. It's made up of individuals working as a team for a common goal. And really important that we continue to listen to staff, that we value what they say, and we also act on the feedback that they give us. During the year, we've continued with our quality, engagement and healthy lives, which for many of you will have seen if you've been in the organisation round. I don't propose, you'll be pleased to know, to read out every slide, but really the top one, which is about the Patient Safety Incident Framework, that's a new framework that's just coming online now. We've continued to respond to that. We're working with the national teams, we're working regionally, and that will be a new way of us looking at our safety incidents as they come forward. The digital and data strategy, we've had a good session this morning talking about digital and data. They talk about digitally competent people. I'm not sure that because I couldn't put my password in to even get onto the online, that makes me competent. But really, as we move forward into the future, the EPR, the electronic patient records that our chairman has spoken about are going to be really important to us. It will mean that for our patients and those using our services in Norfolk, they can move from hospital to hospital with a record that goes straight across. You don't have to keep saying your story. That's going to be really different. We've got POMS, which is patient outcome for the wards. So again, if you see people wandering around with electronic devices, they are not answering their emails or on WhatsApp or anything like that. They are putting in details and data about you that will eventually feed the patient record. Our engagement, we've launched our kindness, wellness, fairness, the golden thread that runs throughout. And I've just heard this morning, I'm actually on annual leave, but I've just heard this afternoon, during last year we launched in the December the Care with Kindness programme, and I'm absolutely delighted to say this morning I've learned that we have been given national accreditation for the programme, which is really great news. And that was about listening to staff, making sure staff understood what it was like to be on the receiving end of them. So we used patients, we used patient stories, we absolutely developed that programme to ensure that we improved the care that we were delivering. The apprenticeship work, we are absolutely bowled over by some of the outcomes we've had from the apprenticeships. Our organisation is an organisation where if you want to be an apprentice as a plumber or you want to be an apprentice as a nurse, whatever it is and everything in between, we have a really strong relationship with the local college, the College of West Anglia, and the apprenticeships we were really proud of during the year. Freedom to speak up, again, that has been in the national news recently. Again, we've strengthened that, and we strengthened it over the year to have an external freedom to speak up guardian as well as an internal one, which is really important for staff of all grades and all disciplines. Whoever you are, wherever you are, you can go to the freedom to speak up. And again, our healthy lives, our journey of continuous improvement. There is no time that we stop and stand still and we wonder what we were doing and we've reached the end. You always have to continue to look at that. And over using technologies and using technical skills from other people, we have developed our quality improvement programme, which has made a difference. And then our 0 patients waiting over 7 to 8 weeks. Pre-COVID, we would never have thought that we would have patients waiting that long. Unfortunately, COVID gave us a problem of seeing people. We absolutely know that it's important that patients are seen within the time, and we managed that during the course of the year. As Chris has alluded to, we absolutely provide our quality accounts and our annual accounts as ordinary. We have, over the last couple of years, we've got a full pack at the back if anybody would like to see it. And we've always had a summary report. But again, we listened to what people were saying to us, and they wanted an easy read. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Liam just to come and say for a couple of minutes about the easy reads, which I have got copies of, if you will. There you go.
Thanks. Now, you briefly mentioned technology. And I think I'm already going to be floored by the clicker, so let's hope I don't get this wrong. There we go. I have to thank Ross very much for the picture. I know, having seen that previously and then met me in person, there may be some disappointment. But thanks for the good work, Ross. Thank you. As the slide says, my name's Liam. I'm the lead nurse for mental health and learning disability at the hospital. I'm really privileged, humbled, and terrified in equal measure to stand before you all today in Downham Market, which I consider to be my hometown. So, for those that aren't too familiar with the term, I hope that Easy Read speaks for itself. It genuinely is exactly what it says on the tin. It's an initiative whereby we take the jargon, which can sometimes exist in excess within the NHS because of the nature of work that we undertake, and we cut that down into a format that means that we're not excluding anybody from being able to access and understand the services that we provide and what they may expect to receive from the care when they're coming in for an appointment, a procedure, or after a procedure for aftercare. It really works on the main tenet that we're aiming towards people that will have a reduced cognitive function or understanding. Predominantly, that means that we're serving people with a learning disability. Having previously been in the learning disability liaison role and having always worked in mental health, I understand only too well the importance of making sure that those who are the most vulnerable in the society that we serve not only have a chance to have their voice heard, but also to be represented. And that really begins with information. So if that information that we give somebody about a potential procedure is inaccessible for them, and for whatever reason they maybe don't understand or don't feel able to ask for help in understanding, may then withdraw from that procedure, that treatment, decide it's not for them, but not having fully been able to understand that for a number of reasons, they could also feel somewhat stigmatized that they can't access the information that we've added or tried to offer them. So I hope that this acknowledges that the Queen Elizabeth Hospital is very much committed to an Easy Read programme, and for the first time, as we've alluded to this year, these reports have all been changed into an Easy Read format by experts with experience, access able. So it really does demonstrate that the voices of those people we represent that would otherwise be whispers are going to be fully heard. And with that, I shall hand over to Linda. Thank you. Thank you. It's a lovely picture.
Oh. Thank you. Welcome everyone today. My name is Linda Purdy. I'm the Associate Director of Patient Experience. I work with Pippa, the Chief Nurse, and I also work alongside the 2 Deputy Chief Nurses, and we manage the patient experience portfolio. The patient's voice is so important, and it's an extension of what Liam was saying. We sometimes think in health we know what patients want, but it's not until we actually start to ask them, and we do that through surveys, feedback, face-to-face exchanges, all sorts of things we do. But it's really important. And just to give you a whistle-stop tour, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, there is so much more going on in the background. We launched the Access Able. So on our intranet site, patients can log on and find out the services we have. They can do map the disability provision that we have so that they can access the services we provide. And that links with Paul's team, the exec team, with looking at surveys and looking at how we manage. So, for example, the DAC that is being built currently, Access Able have already looked at it and started to have the dialogue around what it needs to look like for our patients' voices. So that was really exciting and we're really proud of that. Produced 75 access guides. There's more coming on board and I'm due to meet again with Access Able quite soon to look and see if we need to update any of the provision. And it just will help patients planning their journey as they come in. Now, Liam talked about the readers panel, which is any patient information that we give to patients in any of our specialties, in any of our locality. Our readers panel will look at it and they will come from the voice of the patient and give some recommendations. And we've already launched that service and it's providing some really invaluable information back to teams. And then the next part that I'd like to talk to you about is the patient panel. And again, that's the voice. We sometimes, like I said before, we think we know what patients want and we think we know what they need, but it's not until we actually start to engage with patients, relatives and carers, we start to see what people really, really need. So they advocate on behalf of patients and carers. They give us that third dimension insight into the provision that we can provide or need to provide. They co-produce things. They help us transform our services. They continue to contribute to improvement and quality of our services. And I'd like to introduce you to Penny, who is now one of our patient panel members, who's going to talk to you about some of the work that she's done. And the electronic patient record is really important. We have two parts of that part is the accessibility information standard, so linking in with what Liam was saying with easy read, how people can navigate if English isn't your first language, those kind of things, but also about the patient portal and what that needed to look like for patients. So for the first time this year, the patient panel is going to be part of the PLACE audit, which is the patient-led assessments for care environment, working alongside Healthwatch and the governors to be the voice of what our environment looks like. So I'm going to hand you over to Penny.
Thank you. Hello. When I was making a few notes, I realised I've actually been associated with hospitals in Kings Lynn for over 47 years now. I trained as a second career as a nurse at the old hospital, moved up to the new hospital where I worked until I retired, ending as a sister in the intensive care unit. When I retired, I joined the League of Friends, and when the QEH became a foundation trust, I was elected as a governor. I worked as a governor for 12 years, and my interest has always been for a good patient experience. I'm now chairman of the League of Friends, and having retired as a governor, I decided to join the patient experience panel. I'm extremely interested in the electronic patient records. And also during Lord Markham's visit, when he came, I specifically asked him some questions regarding the plans for the new hospital. Following a fall that I had a couple of years ago and some huge orthopaedic operations, I've got a special interest in physiotherapy for recovering elderly orthopaedic patients, which I intend to very vocally follow up. And those of you who know me, and I'm sure there's quite a few, know that I can be very vocal. So I'm hoping to be able to add my experience and passion to the patient panel and, with a bit of luck, make a difference to our patients' experience within the hospital setting. I'm now going to hand over to Jodie, who's going to talk about maternity.
So I'm Jodie, I'm one of the matrons within Women and Children's Division.
And I'm Kelly, I'm Brancaster Ward Manager.
So we've just come to talk to you about 3 areas in maternity. We had a very busy 3 months last year and we opened 3 different units within maternity. Very stressful but very, very productive and really good outcomes for all of them. So we'll go through them.
So the first thing that we looked at as part of the RAC improvement was actually moving across from Castlelake Ward to Brancaster. So we were one of the first wards to get refurbished. We had great communication with all of the teams, and we had a lot of input with regards to how the design was going to look as well. So it has vastly improved not only safety but quality for our ladies as well. We've got 19 beds on Brancaster Ward, and within each bay we have 4 beds. Within the areas, we've now got a bathroom within each area, so the women don't have to walk down the corridor anymore, they don't have to leave the babies, there's not that separation. We were also able to install a shower facility so that partners, when they're staying overnight, they've got somewhere to access as well. In the old Castlelake Ward, we only had a mobile suction unit and oxygen. So we've now got that at every single bed space. So the safety is improved incredibly in that area as well. It's bright, it's clean, it's airy. The women absolutely love it on there. So these are just a few pictures of the areas when they've opened. So we've got side rooms on Brancaster Ward now, which can house many people in there. You can have a whole party in there if you wanted to. So we've been able to have recliners in there so that the partners can stay overnight. We use the side rooms really for anybody that's got a need. So if they're being isolated, if they've got mental health concerns, if there's anything like that, we have the side room facilities for them as well. And then as part of the project, we were able to put in a specific maternity triage area, which we were lacking before. It was all seen on delivery suites, so we now have a specific area for those ladies to be seen, triage safely, and get through the process how we need.
So moving on to the butterfly suite, which was our third area that we opened last year. Oh, enthusiastic clicking, sorry. So why was it needed? First and foremost, patient experience. We knew we didn't have the right facilities for women to give them the care they needed in these really sad circumstances. We also are led by SANS as well. They have a national bereavement care pathway, and they do state that they should be dedicated bereavement facilities within each hospital. And it was also picked up by the CQC that we needed somewhere because what we had previously wasn't really fit for purpose. So it's been quite a long process actually getting it up and running. It took a lot of planning. We started back in autumn 2018 with drawings. We had an awful lot of input from our service users. We've got some very dedicated, passionate service users that have helped us all the way through and continue to help us with our next project with the Butterfly Garden. So they've had their input all the way through of it, and they were obviously there at the opening ceremony for us, which was lovely. We've had some really great fundraising from community. We were lucky enough to be the Lynn News Charity of the Year. The timing wasn't very great because we were named as the Charity of the Year, and then obviously COVID hit, and then all the fundraising that people had planned had to kind of be amended because we couldn't do what people had planned to do. But the community absolutely came out for us and helped. And we opened in July. So this was our opening ceremony, and like I said, our service users did come and open the suite for us, which was lovely because they have led it from the word go. And this just shows you inside the butterfly suite. One of our bereaved families, the lady's a local artist, and she very kindly painted us a mural, an abstract mural, which is behind perspex on the wall that you can't see, but we actually took part of it and blew it up to make that wall on the side that you can see. So it just gives it a really calming environment in there. We've got a panel on the ceiling which you can just see, it just looks like clouds, so there is some obviously some light coming in via that way. She also, on the weekend before we opened, she came in on the Saturday, and in that room you can just see at the back in the nursery, she painted all the butterflies on the wall for us, which just tied it all in from the mural to obviously the naming of the butterfly. And the difference it's made has actually been amazing. It's one of the toughest times in people's lives that they go through, but to actually have the right facilities does make such a big difference for them. So next is our butterfly garden, which we are planning. Again, the service users have been there with us all the way along. We're hoping that in a couple of months that we will get the actual ground broken and the start of that, which will be quite exciting. It'll take a couple of months, but we'll get there. So yes, a very busy 3 months for us, but very productive, and the difference it's made to the staff and the service users has just been amazing. So we'll hand over to Helen and Alex.
So hello, thank you everyone for the opportunity to come and share our exciting year that we've had in endoscopy. My name's Helen Smith, I'm the lead nurse for endoscopy, and this is my colleague Alex Harris, who is the endoscopy unit manager at QE. So we began our exciting journey in 2021, where we had approval of our new endoscopy building. Over the next year, we had several photo opportunities in hard hats. I spent the year in a hard hat as the building took shape, and it was so exciting to see for the team. We'd been involved with the planning from the blueprint stage, and it was amazing to see it take shape over that next year to the finished article, which was a very exciting, bright, colourful, airy unit for all our patients. That's one of our procedure rooms, which we're all... So this was our opening ceremony that took place in September. And we had our first patients through the door on the 20th of September. And this was the opening ceremony on the 21st of September. I'll pass you over to Alex.
So the new endoscopy unit opened in September, and we welcomed our first patient through the doors. The procedures we provide are colonoscopy, gastroscopy, flexible sigmoidoscopy, ERCP, bronchoscopy and EBUS procedures, which are all day case procedures. We have 4 procedure rooms which are equipped with the latest HD equipment to facilitate the best possible imaging. We have light and spacious waiting area for patients, and we also have 6 additional patient prep rooms with en-suite facilities. We have separate female and male recovery areas and a side room which is utilised for infection control management or patients with additional care needs. Our discharge lounge has 2 additional rooms to enable patient privacy when being discharged. We also have our own staff rest area and change facilities, which is very important for the staff that work there. And we also have a colon capsule room, or the pill cam room, which is a room dedicated to reading patient results.
So since opening in September, these are the numbers that we've managed to complete within the department. We've been able to utilise our lists a lot more effectively. We can now do male and female lists together, whereas before we had to have separate days. And that led to inequality in access. So as you can see, we've done 3,557 colonoscopies, 3,635 gastroscopies, 797 flexies, and 301 ERCPs. And we shorten that title because it's very, very complicated to say. This is purely at our QE site. So alongside the excitement of the new building, we were due to have our accreditation assessment. Endoscopy units are accredited by the Joint Advisory Group, JAG, and they assess endoscopy units across the country and give us accreditation or not. So it was a very nervous time for us. The assessment covers both sites. Sorry, that flipped through a bit too quick. Yeah, so the assessment covered both sites, both at the QE and at North Cambs Hospital. The assessment consisted of 4 assessors which came, one including a lay person, which was very important to give us that patient view on our service. They look at the quality and safety of care, the patient experience, the provision of staff training and development opportunities, and a safe and comfortable environment for our patients. So the inspection takes place every 5 years, and then the decisions are made following that 2-day visit. Our results that we had were that we were fully awarded accreditation, which we were all extremely proud of. The feedback was amazing, and it was credit to everyone involved. The key points that were raised on the formal report were that both sites operate to an exceptional standard and easily some of the highest that they'd seen in the UK. One of our assessors had been assessing for 20 years around trusts across the country, so we were extremely proud of that. The whole team demonstrated pride and passion in their work. The service epitomises what a quality, safe endoscopy service with embedded standards are all about, and it was a pleasure to assess the service, and we were given huge congratulations on a job well done throughout our service. This gave the staff a real boost, and that amazing feedback gave the staff immense pride to know that they were doing a really good job. And that's a picture of us all outside looking very smiley. And we're now coming up to a year in our new unit in the next 2 weeks, aren't we? Yeah. So we're going to have a little staff celebration with cake and things to
We're having a birthday party next week.
which will be very good for us. Thank you very much. Yeah, so we'll now hand over to Karen and Mr. Krupas, if you'd like to come up.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Karen Ratcliffe. I'm the Senior Sister for Ophthalmology at QEH, and I'm joined by Mr. Krupas, who's our lead consultant ophthalmologist in our medical retina service. We're really proud to share with you this afternoon a bit of a snapshot tour of our fantastic West Norfolk Eye Centre, which opened in May last year following a £3 million investment. The team were heavily involved in the design and planning of the department, which we all feel so happy about because it's just made it such an excellent unit for not only the staff but of course the patients. So we're going to take you on a little whistle-stop tour to show you around. Just a little more about our team. Ophthalmology at QEH, we're a multidisciplinary team including consultants, specialty doctors, nursing staff, specialist practitioners including orthoptists and optometrists. We're supported by fail-safe officers, receptionists, secretaries, an eye clinic liaison officer and also an operational team. We have close working links with the Arthur Levin Day Surgery Centre, which is where our ophthalmology theatre is based, and we also run an outreach service at North Cambs Hospital outpatients too. As well as offering general ophthalmology care, we do have a lot of multiple subspecialties as well, so including medical retina, as we've mentioned, paediatrics, vitreoretinal surgery, glaucoma, cataract, oculoplastics, and also a very busy eye casualty service. We are the largest outpatient service in the Trust. We saw over 32,000 patients for outpatient appointments last year, which is a pretty whopping number, I'm sure you'll agree. So how might it feel to be a patient in our clinic? We'll try and show you around and set the context a little bit. So we still feel like we might need a name for our clinic wings because we haven't thought of it, but we have 2 clinic wings and a reception and a medical retina suite. So this is looking at one of the wings, rooms with rooms 1 to 7, and at the end of the corridor this way near room 1, it leads you back into the Emerson unit that we're joined with and back into the main hospital, which is a good access link, but we do also have our own bespoke reception area as well. Our unit was designed to try and have as many multi-purpose use of the rooms as possible, so the consulting rooms are used by each specialty, but we do cohort our paediatric patients and keep them, that sounds a little rude, keep them in the area near number 1, which is where it's best to have the patients all together to be looked after. Just about every patient that comes to visit us will have a visual acuity test. It's a really important baseline assessment of their eye health. And in our new department, we've been lucky enough to benefit from the electronic style visual acuity charts, which is the picture on the right there. Not that there's anything wrong with the old-fashioned style, but we have vision testing available in nearly all of our clinic rooms, which has been a massive help to maximise the patient flow through the department. We also carry out a huge amount of diagnostic tests within the department, including visual field testing for peripheral vision, retinal scans and ultrasound, to name but a few. We've also been of benefit of some really advanced technology as part of our investment in the unit, which is fantastic for our patients. I'm now just going to hand you over to Michael for a few moments to explain a little more about the medical retinal service and suite.
Thank you, Cara. Thank you. We, in the eye unit, we're all very proud and humbled to serve the local population. All of you are familiar with the demographics of West Norfolk. We know we have an aging population and very high incidence of diabetes and cardiovascular diseases, potential sight-threatening conditions. So we finally are in the stage to be able to provide a world-class medical retina service to address issues like diabetic retinopathy and age-related macular degeneration, especially the wet type. So we are privileged and we are very happy to have a bespoke, purpose-built medical retina suite. And the journey of the patient starts by the diagnostic. So we are very grateful to the trust and especially to Chris that has approved all our retinal equipment. So patients have the visual acuity done, then they have the retina scans, including OCT, optical coherence tomography, and OCT angio. We are very proud that we are, as far as I know, the only trust in East Anglia that has OCT angiography, which is a non-invasive type of angiography, so people don't need to have cannulas and dyes. And I'm proud that sometimes we receive referrals from university hospitals, NNN and Cambridge, because we can run this diagnostic to patients. So patients have world-class diagnostics and then see the doctor, and then they can have the intravitreal treatment, as you know, known as injections inside the eye, which save the sight. We have a fast-track system. When people are referred either by general practitioners or optometrists, in 2 weeks, we aim to see people, and we aspire to provide to all our patients one-stop clinics. So on the day that that patients come and diagnosed with sight-threatening retinal vascular occlusions, wet AMD, diabetic macular edema, patients are able to have the first treatment on the day, so one-stop clinics. Obviously, these are high-volume, high-frequency treatments, and we deliver approximately 3,500 intravitreal injections a year. To be able to maintain and enhance this service, we have trained non-medical injectors, so we have now specialist nurses who have been trained to safely and effectively deliver these treatments. We invest strong on training in the unit, in the medical retina service, and we run 7 days a week service. So we run over the summer, Saturday, Sunday clinics, high volume clinics to serve our local population, and I'm very grateful to the team, everyone who is helping us to keep providing this service.
Thank you very much. So just the last few slides to let you know about as well. We also are really lucky in West Norfolk Eye Centre to have been supported by a local charity, Vision Norfolk, who fund a post for a full-time eye clinic liaison officer. Michelle has been a fabulous addition to our team. She's brilliant and an excellent support for our patients, particularly those with sight loss. Not only does she frequent the premises in our eye unit. She's out and about on the wards and other departments. She's always tuned into if there are patients needing some support with sight loss. So she's definitely somebody that makes us all very proud. Little snapshot, a sneaky peek inside one of our consulting rooms. They're all set up in a very similar way, as I mentioned earlier, so that we can multi-purpose these spaces, and our lovely Mr. Saeed, our vitreoretinal consultant. Just to mention as well, we're lucky enough in the new unit to have 2 separate laser rooms which house 2 different types of laser. One that predominantly treats front of the eye conditions and the other that treats the back of the eye. In our space before we moved, both the lasers had to be housed in one room due to space limitations. So effectively now we have the potential to be able to run sort of 2 lists at once, which is obviously helping to get more patients through the system and work a lot more efficiently. So that has been a very welcome addition. Room number 13 is a very lucky one for us as well. We've been had a development of a staff teaching and training area, which has been extremely well used since we started work in the new unit. We hold our daily nursing huddles here, but also have our clinical governance and departmental meetings, and we've even held some open evenings for local optometrists to come and learn more about what we do, with the hope that it will help to improve and refine referrals sent to us in the future. So what do our patients think? We've just included a few little quotes just of some compliments that we have received since we've moved over to the new unit. This one is actually from a little column in your local paper recently from Mark Hurl, who writes a sports column for the paper. He sadly was diagnosed with a retinal detachment and had to have surgery, but his feedback to us from being looked after was fantastic. And also just a couple more there to share with you. It's really nice that the unfailing care of the staff and the kind treatment is being noted by the patients, and absolutely something that I'm sure we all strive for. And finally, we were nominated for Team of the Week back in January this year, which was a really lovely morale boost for the staff. Again, it's the nomination mentions that we've been working hard to try and reduce our backlog of patients, that we're showing kindness and compassion towards our patients and each other, which is absolutely the way everything should be. So I hope that this little snapshot has given you an idea of what we do in team ophthalmology, and we'd welcome anyone to come for a visit if they would like to. I will now hand over to Kristen.
Thank you, Karen, Michael. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Chris Benham. I'm the Director of Finance at the Trust. And Michael, it was a brilliant case, fabulous facility, and as we agreed, the check's in the post for those kind words. All seriously, all thanks to the ophthalmology team. It's a fantastic unit, and also to our other colleagues that have spoken. Some really exciting innovations this year. And I guess what I'm here to talk about is the money that allows some of these things to happen. It's a great honour, actually, to stand here again for the 4th year to say we've delivered our financial plan. As Chris said right at the beginning, the financial delivery gets harder and harder every year, but we have done it for a 4th year, and we've delivered our plans as we've been requested to. This is one of our statutory duties. So a really important aspect that we have managed to deliver our plan. It says we've delivered £38,000 surplus. We were asked to deliver a break-even, so slightly better than our plan. But if you can remember one of the early slides that Alice showed, we get £300 million worth of income every year to deliver the services that we do. So to spend all of that within £38,000 is testament to some of the discipline and efforts of all of our teams. It's not just me that spends that money. So thank you to my colleagues. Within there's just a couple of things. You'll see the 3rd bullet point down. We have to save money every year. This is a national ask. We have to be more efficient. We have to do things differently. And within our £38,000 surplus, we have had to save just shy of £9 million to deliver that position. Again, it's not me that delivers that, it's my clinical and non-clinical colleagues. It gets harder every year, but every year they become more innovative more efficient, still delivering the high quality care. So again, take my hat off to those colleagues. We also spend capital. You've seen quite a lot of the things around endoscopy, the new eye unit. We had £53 million worth of capital to spend, and I will cover off just a few of those things on the next slide. So those are our highlights. We've done what we said we would do. If you do want to see the full details, the pack at the back has all of the numbers in them. And you don't just need to believe me. KPMG, our external auditors, have also said they believe all the numbers that we've done. So we've got a clean audit opinion, another good tick in the box. But they also test how we spend that money and how wisely we spend it. They call it value for money. So for every pound we spend, do we get the best of it? And this year we got a green for our use of our resources. So again, it's not me, it's my colleagues that do all of this, so thank you to those colleagues. In terms of our capital, it's quite a busy slide, so I won't read the lines, but you'll see that we spend our capital expenditure in 3 key areas. One is on the estate and facilities, so that's the building, the physical environment, and you'll see there's quite a big number in there for RAC-related items. We've mentioned RAC right at the beginning, and there's a bit of a thread through here. My Brancaster colleagues talked about being the pioneers of RAC and failsafe. That's a really big number. And although we spend a lot of money, it also means that our colleagues have to be really flexible in how they deliver services while we manage and monitor our RAC situation. We also spend money on medical equipment, and that's everything from scanners. We've got some pretty big scanners. We replaced 2 MRI machines. They're not cheap. They need lots of power. If you want to talk to Paul Brooks, our Estates and Facilities Director, about how much power they do use, I'm sure he can tell you. But they also take quite a while to implement and install. And then right at the bottom, our digital journey. You've heard about the electronic patient record being a real enabler to change the way in which we deliver healthcare. We're on the very early parts of that journey, and there's lots of implementation work and other systems that need to be in place before we can go live with our EPR, and we're spending a significant amount of money within there. Final slide is our charity. You'll see there's a charity stand at the back. It's a big thank you really for everybody that donates to our charity. It does a huge amount of work. It allows us to do other things that our Treasury funding doesn't allow us to do. We work in partnership with our other key charity in the area, the League of Friends. Penny mentioned it earlier, so a thank you to our League of Friends colleagues as well. And this slide's give you a flavour of what we spend our money on, whether it be training courses, whether it be some of those more advanced bits of medical equipment. It does allow us a little bit more freedom to do those extra special things in the hospital. So a big thank you from the Trust to everybody that donates through to charity. I think that's me finished. I'm going to hand over to Antonio, who's going to talk to us about governors.
So public engagement in the last year continued to be slightly challenging because restrictions were still being lifted from after the pandemic, and many groups that we engaged with had not reformed. The membership sat at just over 6,000, which was broadly representative of the area that QEH services cover. In February, we appointed 3 new governors after an election, and we are pleased to welcome Barbara Turner, John Grayson and Prue Fox to the council. 7 other governors very kindly stood and were re-elected, and I'd like to thank all of them for their time and commitment to the Trust. The Council of Governors met formally 6 times in the year, and it was really pleasant that we could also get back face to face again. Much easier to manage than Teams meetings. There are 4 governor working groups which mirror the board committees and make recommendations to the Council of Governors. Within the working groups, we work closely with our exec leads and non-executive directors to bring issues that we have found in the community to the board for discussion and see what people think about where we can make improvements. We get very good presentations from colleagues across the hospital so that we're kept up to date with our knowledge of the services that the hospital offers, and we receive excellent email updates from comms telling us what's been happening in the last week, and we use that information to go out into the public and to talk to our members. So this year, the Nomination and Remuneration Committee led the appointment process for our new chair, Chris, and reappointed 4 non-exec directors. Externally, we attended lots and lots of patient participation groups covering all of our counties that we serve. We attended GEAR, the College of West Anglia Open Days. Internally, we worked with members of the Trust on the multi-storey car park working group, the new hospital forum, cancer services group, digital review group, spiritual wellness, and a vast amount that I can't even remember, that we work all over the place. We had input into the new dementia-friendly garden, and we were offered to take part. We always take part in quality assurance visits around the hospital, where we give feedback. Our main work was based and led by Alan Maltby, he's in the audience somewhere, on facilitating the HUSH campaign, which provided feedback on patients' ability to sleep whilst we're in hospital. And we helped to rerun this autumn. The Membership and Comms Committee hosted a very, very good dementia awareness event with speakers from the Trust, West Norfolk Carers, Alzheimer's Society and Chatterton House. Over 80 people attended, and we learnt all about dementia and what help could be offered. And I'm now going to hand back to Chris and Alice.
Thank you very much, and I hope you can see through those presentations what amazing teams we have. And so on behalf of myself, I have to say I stand here really humbled and proud to be the Chief Executive for the Queen Elizabeth. And I realise I actually didn't introduce myself, so that's even worse, isn't it? But hopefully, I like to think I look more attractive than the picture, but I'm not sure. So I will introduce myself as Alice Webster. And during the year that we've just had, I was also the chief nurse, so I feel even prouder to see the nursing team stand up there, and once a nurse, always a nurse, isn't that right, Sue? So thank you. As we move forward, it's always really, really important to reflect on where we've been and to allow that to enable us to move forward. So we'll just give you a brief overview of where we're looking to as we move forward this year. So in 2022-2023, we had 6 key objectives, and during the latter part of that year, we had some work with the teams, and we took them down to 3 key strategic objectives, absolutely built on our QEH, so around the quality engagement and healthy lives. Really important for us that quality stays central to all that we do. So these 3 objectives have a series of outcomes that we hope to measure underneath, or we continue to measure underneath, I should say. And most importantly, we have to keep talking about staff. Our greatest asset is our staff. Our buildings are really important, but our staff are the ones that flexibly deliver services day in, day out. And we, and I'm sure many of the teams, as you speak to them, will say, wherever you are and whatever you do, it matters. And everybody makes a difference to those services that we can provide. But also, without our patients telling us what has gone well, what hasn't gone well, we don't know how to improve, we don't know where to improve. Often we think we do, but somebody comes up with something totally different, which is absolutely brilliant. So as we move forward, we have got the Diagnostic Assessment Centre. Again, I don't plan to read through the whole slide, you'll be relieved to know. Suffice it to say, photo with hard hats and with our luminous jackets has been taken. We have, I like to think that I dug the foundations, but Paul tells me my one shovel did not dig those foundations. But that will give us a diagnostic assessment centre as you come into the Queen Elizabeth on the left-hand side. That's really important, as Chris has described, with the technical equipment, the MRI scanners, CT scanners. We have more and more patients coming through as healthcare changes. That's the way that we are now working. So the Diagnostic Assessment Centre will be able to provide more provision for our patients, and we're hoping that it should be up and running by autumn 2024. I'm not going to give you when autumn is, but we are hard on the builders, and I guess just a huge apology for anybody who is entering QE, either in the car or in a bus or on a bicycle, because you will have lots of traffic coming backwards and forwards. Where it is going is just beside the West Norfolk Eye Centre, and a huge thank you to them and to the Emerson unit and to patients using those two units. One of the things, there was a little dedicated car park where that is now going to be sited, and one of the things patients said is it's a very long way up from the car park up to the main hospital. And I would like to congratulate anybody who designed our hospital to find the only hill in Norfolk which goes from the car park up to the main entrance. So, you know, we are aware that it is a long distance, and if you are going for an outpatient appointment, particularly an eye appointment, you often need to be dropped closer. So we have now put in another car park, and I think that's an example of where you say we did, really important for our patients. And I'm also delighted, can I announce the buggy? We have a patient buggy that Linda and I have been chomping at the bit. I'm going to be the first driver on Monday when I return from leave. That starts on Monday, and that buggy will be a little trained, I like to think it'll be like a little safari, but it will go from the car park where it will pick you up as a patient and take you up to the Emerson or up to main outpatients. Really important. Our patients don't come to us because it's just a fun day out. They come to us because they're unwell, and often it is too far to walk from the car park, and it's not always easy to be dropped off by the main entrance. So thank you to those that have supported it, and most importantly, I wish you well in the buggy on Monday. System working, I'm going to hand over to Chris for this one.
Alice, thank you very much indeed. Well, as we were told many hundreds of years ago, no man is an island. And although place is absolutely fundamental, and we are an anchor institution within our part of the world, how we work with our system is absolutely critical to improving patient experience, the patient journey across our system, so that people get the right treatment in the right place. So we have, in Norfolk and Waveney, we have our Integrated Care Board, which is, if you like, the successor organisation of CCGs, but it's not a CCG, although it has a checkbook. It's a much more collaborative and collegiate and interactive way of working, so that the people who are, as it were, commissioning the services are engaged in the discussion about the delivery of those services and the configuration as we invest capital in our system. So we have a number of areas that we're working in. The Acute Hospital Collaborative, that's ourselves with the NNN, and James Paget. We have a committee in common, which I chair, and I will do until most probably March next year, I think. Yeah, when somebody from the NNN most probably will take over. We are looking at how we align ourselves, not only in terms of preparedness for the electronic patient record, which we will share, and we've heard about that today, but also in terms of our clinical strategy. It's that consistency of outcome and of care and of treatment across the system that the people we look after have a right to expect. That is going to involve a huge amount of work as we develop a joined-up approach. And so that is, if you like, at the heart of delivering that. We also have our place-based hubs here, which Carly chairs, Carly West Benham, who's not here today, but who will chairs our local place board, and there are other place boards across the county. We have an increasing level of collaboration, so important with our colleagues in community health, in mental health, and in the voluntary sector, because actually if you're a patient, you really don't care as much as we do about organisational structures. You care about what's it like at the point where you're receiving care. Do people have the skills, the experience, the knowledge, the understanding, and also the data that enable them to give you the best care that you both need and deserve? So that is an ongoing thing, and one of the things that I've been doing very much in my role with my colleagues in the other trusts is to build that team-based approach. We spend a lot of time talking to each other, a lot of time sharing views. This is not a competition. We don't become a better acute trust at somebody else's expense. And gradually, we're moving away from, I think, a time many years ago when it was there was a Secretary of State, whose name I better not mention, who thought that competition within the health system was actually going to drive higher standards. It didn't. It distorted and introduced unfair competition and created division amongst providers. We're rowing back from that considerably, and I think we're well on the way to rebuilding the trust and confidence and respect for each other, which is going to end up in delivering better care. So, talking about the West Place Board, which Carly, we've got the integrated virtual ward solution, an integrated urgent and emergency care hub, which we're investing in, wider work in relation to discharge. We know the challenges we have about the challenge of getting people safely back out of an acute setting into the communities with the support they require. Addressing the issues we have with 15-20% on any one day of our beds taken up by people who really are not, whose interests are not best served by being there, and keeping them safe isn't going to happen by accident. And there is a huge amount of work being done locally, regionally and nationally on developing those programs. The Health and Wellbeing Partnership is really important with us, to us as well, across the wider patch. And our colleagues, and I see that Alex Stewart from Health Watch at the back is with us today. The work that they do and the work that collaboratively we do with them is hugely important. And of course, the other thing is that, as we know, we have cohorts of patients that we look after from Lincolnshire and from Cambridgeshire. And indeed, we have governors, including Alan, I think you're with us today, representing Lincolnshire. So our relationships across our integrated care system boundary are also hugely important to us. Actually, as a patient, it shouldn't matter where you come from. The moment you come into our services, you should get that equality of treatment and that equality of access. So those are the kinds of things we're working on. Parity of treatment, mutual respect, mutual collaboration, co-production, that's going to be something you're going to see more and more of, and more sharing as we go forward. And who's on after me? Me. You, right. I'll hand back to you.
Thank you. Okay, so many of you will have known, and funnily enough, when I was away last week, somebody stopped me and said, I've seen you on the television. That's not good because I wasn't in Norfolk. So on Thursday, the 26th of May, we had announced, I think it was about 13:21 to be precise. We were waiting with bated breath watching Today in Parliament for the announcement, and we were put onto the new hospital programme list. Really, really important, and I would have to say, now having spent some time with Paul and the national team, that was the easy bit. The really hard work starts now, and we have to, most importantly, deliver a new hospital to Kings Lynn by 2030. We have, during August, we did some road shows, and so we went to Wisbech, Hunstanton, Kings Lynn, and indeed we came here to talk to members of the public and spoke with about 350 people in total. Really good sessions where we were given some really great ideas. We've been invited back to other organisations to go and talk to them, which I'm absolutely delighted, and we are more than happy to. It's the first in our series of road shows, and most importantly, we can build and design anything, but actually if it doesn't meet the needs of the population and the services that we have to provide, it won't be effective. So we want to work in partnership with people. What we can't necessarily do is to give everybody everything that they need, but it was some really simple things that people told us. Things like, actually, when I come and stay with my adult child who has learning difficulties, he's a male and I'm his mum. Where do I stay overnight? Really simple things like that. We don't have currently enough side rooms to be able to do that. So what I think often we lose sight of is the really small things that seem small are actually huge and are really, really important to patients. So we will come back out, we will talk to people as we move forward. We have agreed that we will do the road shows again. Paul and I particularly liked Hunstanton, where we were on the stage, desperate not to fall off, because it was the stage that tipped, wasn't it? We didn't, I hasten to add. But we will come out, and so if anybody in the audience today wants us to come and talk to a local group that you're part of, it doesn't matter whether there's 3 people there or 300, and we are more than happy to come and talk, because actually what matters to you matters to us. This is the proposed plan, and I'm delighted to say there is a model in the back, and I'm not going to look at Chris Benham when I say this. The only thing I can guarantee you is it won't be. Yeah. So there is a model there, and we are working with the national team around the Model 2.0, and so we will continue to work with them. But really important that we are on the list, and we will be having a new hospital. So, what enabling works have we already started doing? Really, really key. The Inspire Centre, which was a centre that was, for many people, for many years, it was part of our teaching area. We also had the vaccination, the COVID vaccination centre there, so many people knew it because of the COVID. It started the journey for the QE, and it started the journey again. It has been demolished because it did have rack, and it will now become part of our multi-storey car park. Again, a really important part. Multi-storey car park is critical for us to then be able to build onto the car park. I have to say car parking, we do have our resident expert here. Car parking is really significant to people. It's not easy to get around Norfolk unless you've got a car or you have got transport and somebody to bring you in. So really important that we look at modern facilities and we build something that will be fit for now and into the future. Helipad location, this is my favourite one. The helipad in the corner, we are very fortunate to have a helipad that is available 24 hours a day. We are one of the few areas in the region that do have that. And so we're working with the Air Ambulance Service and also with E-East, the ambulance people, to be able to make sure that we continue to have a 24-hour helipad service. And we have negotiated around some land on the opposite side of the road to build the helipad so that we can then build on the helipad, and then the helipad will go on the roof of the hospital. Is everybody still with me? So we will always continue to have a helipad. It will be located intermittently over the road, and then it will come back onto the site and be above the hospital. Really important, then we will have direct access into our emergency department. And the other enabling works, it's things like we already have on site all of our facilities, but we do need to review the electrical infrastructure, our gas main diversion, so we've got gas already on site, but we will need to divert it slightly. And really important, our renewable infrastructure. We know that actually we have to build a carbon neutral hospital, and that's going to be really important for us as we move forward. At the moment we have a wind turbine, and we want to try and keep that wind turbine. We want to make sure that we will be a sustainable organisation from a green perspective. Really critical, so we will continue to work with that. And also we need to make sure that the site access construction is okay for those that need to access it to deliver and drop off what they need to, but most importantly our patients can still come in. So the key milestones that we will be working to, they are November 2025, we will have a full business case approval. So Paul and the team are absolutely working on that, and then by January 2025 both phases of the multi-storey car park will be complete. And in January 2026 we will be breaking some more ground with some more shovels, and hopefully construction will start by then and we will be up and running. So you can see that although for the general public it may look like there's not a lot going on, there is a huge amount that is going on behind the scenes. Paul and his estates team are absolute miracle workers, and really important that we continue with the new hospital programme to bring the right team in to be able to take us forward to the next stage. No presentation that we do would be complete without our RAC challenge, and over the last 10 days there's certainly been a lot of information in the national press around RAC, and so we felt it was really, really important to be able to put this into the presentation. We have a hospital that was built in 1980-ish. 79% of our hospital is built on the RAC planks. We not only have RAC in the roof, but we have it in the walls as well, and that is really different to some other organisations. Some only have it in the roof. And we have currently 4,394 steel props in place. And so those are steel and timber props that the teams have talked about as we've gone through this afternoon. Really important that we just provide you assurance that our teams are working round the clock. We've got skilled engineering teams and surveyors who carry out daily instruction. If any member of our staff should notice something that they think is not looking quite right, then they know 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, they can call somebody and we will come out and assess it. I do appreciate that it's disconcerting for patients, it's disconcerting for staff and visitors to have read what they have in the press over the last 10 days or so, and people may be worried. Contrary to what has been written in the press, we don't have a blueprint as to where to put the buckets when it rains, and we don't look at the weather forecast just to see where we can allocate patients. It's really important patients go where there is a patient need and that they are treated in the right place. We only ask our estates department to keep an eye on the weather, so thank you to them. And they do this in any weather. So we know that rain is one particular issue, but so is the sun, so is the cold, the snow, icy conditions, high winds, whatever it is. We've got a site to maintain and we've got a site to manage, and it's really important that we do that as safely as possible. So I think we are through, you'll be delighted to know, to questions and hopefully answers. We will try and answer everything that we can. If we are not able to, then we will make sure that we take your details and we go away and provide you with that response at a later point. I think we've got some roving microphones, so if anyone wants to be brave enough to put their hand up.
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Ermin Amies, and I'm from the Women's Rights Network, Norfolk, and also represent the women of Lincolnshire and Cambridgeshire. There are 3 issues that we're particularly concerned about within the hospital trust, and that is that we continue to recognise the needs of women and girls. It was wonderful, your presentation, and congratulations to the team on everything you've achieved this year. Our concern comes out of 3 areas: language, impact and data. Language, you're committed to the Rainbow Ribbons project, which requires gender-neutral language. That's detrimental to the management of conditions and services that women need, particularly women who use English as a second language and people who have learning developments. There's a lot of research from Professor Gamble and Dr. Gribble on the importance of keeping our sex-based language. The second thing that we're concerned about is that you actually are assessing the impacts. It's taken 3 years to get the Trust to correct its equality policy, to add the word sex rather than gender into the equality policy. And I think the impact assessment is only now just being corrected to use the word sex, not gender. It's really important that the impact assessments on the work that you're doing now takes into account our sex-based needs. And the third area is in your electronic patient records. We must collect data by sex so that you can analyse the different impacts of both treatments and outcomes for women and girls from that for men and boys. And gender is not the same as sex, and we need to make sure our staff understand so that we can provide everybody with the fair, kind and accurate treatment that we need. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very comprehensive set of statements there, so I appreciate that. I guess the only response I would say is you know, we are part of an inclusive organisation. We are following national guidance around equality, diversity and inclusion. Around the electronic patient records, absolutely, we are part of a Norfolk-wide electronic patient record. So it will be ourselves, Norfolk and Norwich and James Paget that move forward. And we're happy to take forward your suggestions. So, you know, the impact assessments, again, we are making progress. I don't know, John, if there's anything else further. Our Director of HR, I'll pass over.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. I just think, yes, Alice mentioned about the changes to the equality impact assessments, which we have done. I think in terms of language, it is something that we need to be conscious of because, you know, the difference in gender and sex. And I think this is an area where we will continue to work with system national colleagues to make sure that we strike that right balance so that we do have a genuinely inclusive organisation for people who come to work for us and people who require treatment from us, but that we also reflect in our policies, procedures and impact assessments that we try and get that balance right. So I think, and that certainly has been something we've been looking at when we come to do the equality impact assessments and the guidance that we have with those.
Thank you. It's really important because many of your staff will be what we would call gender critical. They will know that sex matters and they should be able to say so in the workplace.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Tom Wright. I'm a counsellor in West Norfolk. Like everyone here, I'm immensely proud of your team, your medical team, your management team, and where you've taken us. But my big concern is that we have a great opportunity which has arisen as a result of this awful situation we have with the physical structure of the hospital. Kings Lynn is changing as a town. The focus of Kings Lynn is moving more towards the south. And in my mind, I'm not convinced that the decision to rebuild the hospital on the existing site is the correct one and that it has been properly scrutinised. And I say this for a number of reasons. I was brought up in Kingston-on-Thames. I actually lived opposite Kingston Hospital, which was rebuilt. There they had no choice. They obviously had to rebuild the hospital on that site. It took about 20 years. It was a nightmare of bulldozers, ambulances, patients. It was horrible. And I'm afraid if you rebuild on the existing site, we're going to have exactly the same thing. Now, I know from my own inquiries and my own contacts that there are other sites which have been brought forward. But speaking to people who own sites, they all assure me they've never been allowed to engage in a constructive conversation with the trust and with the trustees, with the board. And I just think we might be missing a trick. I appreciate that, you know, it is a juggernaut, that we've gone a long way down the roads with our plans, but maybe we have to ask ourselves, is what we're doing, is it going to be the best solution for Kings Lynn? And I think there are people who wonder if that is the case. Obviously, the alternative building on the green site would be sort of less confusion on the existing site. The actual build would be much quicker. There would be issues about resources and everything like that. But my understanding is these have been addressed. I know at least one landowner who has put forward a site. He's actually sort of agreed to kind of give offer the landing case under option. The site is very favourably placed. The site is considerably bigger than the existing site, because one of the concerns we have is that if we confine ourselves to this site, then maybe we're not making our hospital future-proof. Now, I appreciate this is not a question you want to answer, and certainly not what I expect you to answer right now. I don't actually know what the procedure would be, but I wonder if all the all the trustee members have fully investigated the alternatives and are absolutely satisfied that this solution which you put forward will offer full value for money, that it will be arguments why one might consider moving it. Now, I'm not a civil engineer and I can't say, yes, this is what you're going to do, but I just want to feel that it has properly been looked at. And I have been a bit of a terrier. I've asked a number of questions of the previous chief executive, and I've been fobbed off. I've been told, yes, we've done this. But I've never seen any evidence that that work has been done. And I think in the public interest, we need to know that the hospital site, or the hospital we're going to build, is the absolute best which Kings Lynn deserves. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much indeed for your question. And it's a perfectly legitimate question. And what I think I'm going to do, it's important that you understand the process that was gone through in enabling us to get to where we are with the new hospitals programme. So I'm going to actually ask Paul Brooks, who's our resident expert, to sort of begin to address some of the issues you have.
Hi, Councillor Reeves. Thank you for the question. Can everybody hear me okay? Thank you. So, hello. We have spoken through via email before, but I've never actually managed to speak to you myself. So, welcome and thank you for the perfectly legitimate question. So we have done studies outside of the site. I've seen the documents myself. They're part of what we call the strategic outline case, which is currently sitting as part of the documentation that we have to put forward for our new hospital. Within that documentation, 3 sites are looked at. They are looked at from various aspects. One is transport and travel, one is location, one is services around it, and there's a big list. The actual preferred way forward that we've got looked at 3 cases or 3 types of build. The first one was to actually build a little bit at a time on our site, knock a bit down, build a bit, knock a bit down, which takes us to 2037. If we go for a new build on a greenfield site, it actually takes us to 2033, because greenfield sites aren't as easy to build on as you would say, having lived that experience in a previous life. The preferred way forward we've got sees us build on a site where some of our services are already enabled, such things as high voltage electricity, gas, all those things we talk about on an NHS site. It's programmable and doable by 2030. That's where we have to be. We have to deliver a building that is able to be built, operationalised by 2030. But we have to build a building that's expandable for the modern methods of healthcare. Hospital 2.0 is a new guidance that's been sent down to us. We've not received it yet, but we've seen plenty of information in it. It demands that as a trust and as designers, we have to build in capacity. And we have to build in a hospital that's flexible. That flexibility capacity doesn't always mean building other bits on the side of it or making it larger. I think there were many sites that are very, very vast, super hospitals, as they like to call them. Not always great for patient care, and they've suffered from the same things that lots of hospitals have done over the years. They've suffered from things being built on the side of them, built on another area because they weren't able to get them there. They've caused confusion for patients, and they've actually made the efficiencies worse. Hospital 2.0 demands us to make sure the site we have chosen, wherever that site is, we build a hospital that's flexible. So as healthcare changes, and it could be changing right now as we sit here, there could be a pill being developed that negates one of our clinic areas that's needed, or an outpatient or a scanner. And we don't know that. So we're crystal ball gazing as well to 2030 and what healthcare will look like. So the documents that I've seen within the trust that we can't publish yet clearly show that we have made some of those exceptions, and we have looked at those areas. And at that point, I'll be glad to converse with you over them.
Thank you.
Paul, thanks very much indeed. Any other questions? Yes. Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry. We've been hearing about the RAC in schools as well. Is it possible, is it something we have to worry about, the government putting the schools before the hospital?
Paul. I'm going to let Paul.
I've only got
little legs
as well.
Star.
I've only got little legs. It's been a very interesting week through for the RAC, and a really serious matter for lots of people. There will be people that will be here today who will know somebody whose child would have been going to school and can't do that. Yes, there's a worry that financial funds will become tight. We've got a 3-year commitment. Our funds are ring-fenced for the NHS, for the hospitals. We've seen that proved. When things have been really tight and capital has been really harsh, those fundings haven't been affected. So we're really confident that we believe the funding to continue the fail-safe works that we've got will be funded.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh.
Yes.
Right, for those that don't know me, I'm Alan Maltby. I'm one of the governors and chair of the Patient Experience Committee. We've heard some great things about maternity and what's happened over the last year or so. With what's happening countrywide and whereabouts the CQC seems to go, every other one that they go to, they put them in special measures. Are we confident that we will be in a good position when that happens?
I don't mind, I can pick it up, Alan, if that would be helpful. So I would say to you, I've got a couple of our midwifery colleagues here, so if I say anything I shouldn't, tell me. Most importantly, I guess it's about that floor to board and understanding what it's like to be a patient receiving care, but also from a board member looking at the data, scrutinising triangulated stuff, as we call it, stuff to technical words, so data around serious incidents, around birth rates, around emergency caesarean sections, all of the things that we need to be looking at to see if there's any areas of concern. We also have one of our non-exec directors, Claire, who is sitting in front of you, who is our board champion for maternity. Really important that maternity has been, you are right, Alan, maternity has been very high on everyone's agenda for a considerable period of time. Internally, we always look at those reports that come through, we look at where the areas are, we ask the teams to benchmark it, but most importantly, we ask for peer reviews. So there is, our region has a local maternity network, and we are part of that. Claire is part of that as a non-exec director, to look at not only what we do in QE, but what is happening elsewhere in Norfolk and Waveney. We use patient experience, so we have a very good dialogue with our patients. We listen to what they are saying to us. We look at where our facts and figures bring us where we think we may have an area of concern. And most importantly, we talk to our midwifery colleagues, to our obstetric colleagues. We have available for them and for our patients any experiences they want to be able to talk about. We will go, we've got freedom to speak up, we've got professional midwifery advocates. We know what the CQC will be looking at. Some of it, we can go in on a Monday and it might look like this, and on a Tuesday it looks slightly different. So we will work with the CQC when they do come and do an inspection, which they will. I don't know what they will find at that particular inspection. Every inspector finds something different, but we will continue to work with them. We meet with them regularly on a monthly basis. We talk to the CQC, we tell them what's going on, they tell us about any patient that may have made contact with them, any areas of concern that they have got. We will continue to do that. We will continue to look at national reports and where we benchmark on that and where we think we need to make continuous improvement. Where I spoke about the patient safety instant review framework, that will be really important. That's where you collectively look at areas, and I know you know probably more than most about that. Our quality committee, patient experience committee, safety groups, they are all looking at that continuously, and I think our midwifery colleagues would probably say governance is really high on the agenda for what they do on a daily basis. We continue to make sure they have the relevant training and development that is needed, and that we are developing services to meet the needs of women and their partners and families.
Thank you. It's probably, there's going to be more things come out after Nottingham, isn't there?
I suspect every day feels like there's something else that comes out within the NHS and within national reports. We will wait to hear what comes from Nottingham. We will work with what has arisen out of East Kent, and we will continue to do that and make sure that services are as safe as they can be. Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Malcolm, surname Powell. I suppose if there was an organisation called Friends of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, I'd elect myself chairman. But basically, 3 times in the last 8 years, I was told by consultants they weren't expecting me to be alive by the next morning, and I'm still here to tell the tale. Because of that, I'm testimony to the care and the intervention by staff at this hospital, including a senior member of staff who decided she would chaperone the treatment I was actually having at Addenbrooke's as well. My question is, basically, we've heard a lot about the new hospital and how important it is. Obviously, the critical area is the building of the new car park. Someone told me there is still some concern they actually haven't got the money to build the new car park yet. Have we got the money, or is it a cast iron guarantee we will get it?
I'll let our resident car park expert pick this one up. And thank you, Malcolm. It's always a pleasure to see you wandering the corridors, so thank you.
Malcolm, thank you, and a great question that prompts what I hope will be a decent answer. So we've filled all the forms in, Malcolm. I'm as confident I can as we're ready. We received a review from the new hospital project team just last week, which we hope was the final part of the assessment that we have to undergo. Bear in mind, we're spending public money. It's, you know, it's only right to make sure that what we're doing is absolutely watertight. You know, this is our money that we're spending on these schemes, so it has to be right. So I'm still awaiting the cheque to arrive, Mark, but we've got contractors ready. We are teed up. We're just going through the last part of that formal review process, which I hope is very soon. But I haven't been given a date yet. Otherwise, we'd have it in a big banner at the back, I promise you. But in all seriousness, we are challenging, myself and Alice are challenging, it feels like every day, about when that decision will come, because every day we don't get in the ground for doing that puts us back a little bit towards our main goal.
And I have to say I'm delighted he hasn't given us a date. He sat at a meeting the other day and said winter will start on the 1st of September. I think we went into the 30s, didn't we? On about the 2nd. Any other questions? Okay. Right, so just to say a list of our executive team. So a huge thank you to all of them for all the work that they've done over the last 12 months. Some are very new to us. And so a huge thank you to Caroline, Laura, Lou, Notley, who all departed during 2022-23. The year was certainly impacted by the work that they did. We had a group of interims. We had Helen Blanchard, we had George Briggs, Mark Henry working with us over the winter, and Raghu. Really critical. It was the worst winter on record for the NHS, and together as a team, I was incredibly proud of what we achieved. So thank you to those that aren't in the room, but also thank you in advance to the team for what they're going to be doing this winter. But most importantly, I guess this exec team has got thousands of people underneath it. So each one is director of a portfolio, and really important that we also thank our staff who can't be here. Without them, none of this would have been possible. If anybody does want, there are reports at the back. If anybody does want to take away a copy and read it, you are very welcome to. Equally, if you would like a copy, then if you contact the communications team at QEH, then they would be more than happy to provide that for you. Just a huge thank you, I guess, to Sarah and the comms team, who I think every time I walk into their office and say, I've been thinking, they all seem to dissipate and either go under the desk or out the window. So, you know, from the concept of what we would do for our annual general meeting this year, or annual members meeting this year, thank you to them and for bearing with me when I say, could you just move or could you just do? You've been phenomenal, if I can say it, I can't spell it. So that's a huge thank you on behalf of myself and of the team. Again, to Stuart for his catering. Our kitchens are, I'm incredibly proud of them. They function 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and we cook all our own food on site. That is really important. And I have to say, somebody to the right of me has managed to worm his way into it. He always gets a large portion of whatever he's going for. He tells me he's going off for soup, but quite often it looks like long potatoes. But we won't tell anyone at home. But a huge thank you to Stuart. And if anybody does want a piece of cake on the way out, please do take it, because if you don't, I have to eat it all. So a huge thank you there. And I guess finally to obviously all of you who have been here this afternoon, what we do wouldn't be possible without all of you. So thank you very much for spending some time with us. We hope that we have given you a little insight into a year in the life of QE. We know we don't always get it right, but we are incredibly proud of what we do, and I personally stand here incredibly proud of the team, so thank you.
just a final word from me. Firstly, I've been here 10 months now, and I just wanted to thank King's Lynn and the staff and everybody I've met for making me feel so welcome. I've spent about 10 years in the NHS, spending all of my time outside Norfolk, and yet I've lived in Norfolk for 25 years. So it's wonderful to be back in the best county in the country and actually working in Norfolk. And so thank you to all of you. And I think particularly I want to say thank you to Alice. They've not only stepped up as interim chief executive, she was mad enough to want to apply for the job. So absolutely committed and totally committed to this family, which is QEH. So well done, Alice, and thank you so much. And thank you to all of you. And Godspeed.